obviously a lot of questions have already been answered over the last panel discussion. So we will try hard to provide even more detailed answers, I mean my panelists, to some questions about the brand perception of the region. So however, the region of South Europe is actually often perceived and described as post-socialist chic, and is still, from perspective of global brands, it's perceived as a Sleeping Beauty or Cinderella or Snow White or whatever you like. But, or if described by the journalists, then we speak about hidden gems or any kind of these kind of dreamy descriptions of emerging market in a nutshell. So, however, the industry, we see the positive impacts over the last few years, especially due to global crisis and the positive spillover effects in terms of spilling the demand to Mediterranean basin, and obviously some new destinations emerging, some countries completely changing the image and repositioning of the global market, and then also on the other hand some specific destinations entering into more luxurious niche of the tourism market. So all in all, today on this panel we will be actually focusing on localizing the global perspective of global brands about the region, and really try to define how the brands see the region and how they see potential of the region. So today I'm really honored to have panelists on board of this panel. So Adela, Emmeline, Darren, Hilko, thank you for being here. And obviously, please may I ask you just to shortly introduce yourself before we skip to questions.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Adela Crista, Development Director at Hilton. I am based in Vienna. I cover 8 countries in the region, from Serbia, Bosnia, Macedonia, to Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Austria. I am coming to this conference every year now for a few years. Very pleased to be here, hopefully doing a few more projects in the country and in the wider region. We are coming with all brands, but more on brands and development destinations to follow.
Yep, so.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Hilko Versteeg. I head up development for Southern Europe, so basically covering the Mediterranean from Portugal to the Balkans all included. We've been quite active in the Balkans, and we hope to continue to do so.
Hi, I'm Darren Blanchard from Carlson Residor Hotel Group. I'm 25 years in Eastern Europe, based in our office in Moscow, covering Russia, CIS, Baltics, and now more of a focus in the Balkan region. We have approximately 100 hotels in Eastern Europe with about 13,000 rooms.
Hello everyone, my name is Emmeline Sikora. I work for Accor Hotels. Most specifically, I actually work with Orbis, which is Accor Hotel's strategic partner in the region. Orbis covers 16 countries in Eastern Europe, from the Baltics area down to the Balkans. I am responsible for development in Southeastern Europe. I'm based in Bucharest, and I look after Romania, Bulgaria, Moldova, and ex-Yugoslavia countries. To date, we don't have a hotel yet in Belgrade, but we were very pleased to announce last week the rebranding of Hotel Excelsior down the road under Mercure brand for later this year.
Cool. So I guess that everyone now more or less has the basic idea of you and what and who you represent. But actually, I would just maybe shortly introduce the whole story and really try to give the perspective of the region. So during this year, we have, as a whole at HTL, done first edition of Global Hotel Chains and Global Hotel Brands a report on also focusing and including the Eastern Europe and the Southeastern Europe. And we have at the moment analyzed Croatia, Slovenia, Hungary, Austria, and for the next year we will also have Serbia, Montenegro, and other countries in this research as well. So from what data we have collected so far, we have seen that actually, for instance, in Croatia we have 5 domestic brands and 15 international brands. However, if we look at Hungary, we can see 6 domestic brands and over 30 international brands. And just across the border in Austria, we see more than 70 international brands, just international brands. So, for instance, comparing Croatia and Austria in terms of international brands, 15 compared to over 70 brands, it's a huge difference. It's more than quadruple number of international brands, just 150 kilometers by the road. So obviously, can you give us some initial idea from your each individual perspective about your presence in the region, and from your individual brand perspective, which country is actually performing the best in terms of attracting international brands?
In the southeastern region, for Hilton, Romania would have the largest number of properties right now. We have 11 projects in the country open in the pipeline. Austria has 6 projects, then Bulgaria 4. Here in Serbia, we are very pleased to have a beautiful Hilton under construction, 242 rooms, moving fast, due to open next year. So very excited about that. It's been a long time coming, this project. We are quite excited to have it open finally in Belgrade, in the capital city. But also looking at the regions, looking at Novi Sad and Niš. For now, we don't have projects right now under development, but as a strategy, if you wish. And then looking at the wider region, we would like to be in all the capital cities in the region. I think it's just Sarajevo where we are not at the moment. We have a DoubleTree by Hilton under construction in Skopje, in Macedonia. Hilton Garden Inn under construction due to open next year in Tirana, in Albania. And projects open in Podgorica. We opened a beautiful property in Podgorica last year. A Hilton Hotel, 180 rooms. Belgrade is coming next year, so slowly but surely filling all the capital cities with the first brand, and then looking to possibly bring a second brand. We have 14 brands, 8 of them bringing to the region. I think a focus service brand, either a Hilton Garden Inn or Hampton by Hilton, would fit into the Belgrade market, especially the capital cities, and expanding in the regions with either DoubleTree by Hilton, which is a conversion brand, if it's an existing hotel that we can convert to one of our brands, DoubleTree by Hilton, or Hilton Garden Inn for new builds. Also, if a project is in a city where the ADRs are not so high, in order to justify the investment, DoubleTree by Hilton is a good choice for an upscale product for us and for the investor especially, because it will command a higher return on investment. It will be a little less expensive to develop. The ADRs would be what the ADR would be in the market. So here I hear that the ADR is going down, unfortunately, but DoubleTree by Hilton would possibly achieve one of the highest ADRs in the market with slightly lower development costs. Hence, the return on investment would be higher for the developer.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you and maybe support what you said. For instance, looking at the Zagreb market, looking at DoubleTree Hilton Zagreb, really fighting with the most luxurious property in Zagreb, and also succeeding in terms of some KPIs really to overachieve the landmark property.
No, absolutely. I think it's the best performing in the market. This is a little out of the center in the business area, so it's not centrally located, but it's a beautiful product. It's a great product, and it commands one of the highest rates. So I think for markets like Southeastern Europe, DoubleTree by Hilton would be a good product for an upscale destination. And if you want to have larger conference facilities and maybe a spa or a swimming pool, I think that would be a choice. If you want to keep it focused, then we have Hilton Garden Inn, which would fill the gap.
Mm-hmm. And what about the localization of the brand? Are you looking at the DoubleTree on city destinations, or also looking at the coastal ones?
No, also resorts. Obviously, city destinations, capital cities are the main priority. Then secondary cities, so cities with possibly 200, 300,000 people. So in Serbia, it would be Novi Sad and Niš. And also coast or mountain destinations as well. We have 100 resorts as a group. We have 5,000 hotels. trading and 2,000 hotels in the pipeline. 100 of them are resorts, so quite a few resorts. So in the big picture, maybe as a percentage of our portfolio, it's not that great, but as a volume, as a number, it's pretty high. And looking at destinations in the region, coastal and also mountain.
Mm-hmm. And Hilko, what about you? About your presence in the region?
Yeah, we've been traditionally, obviously, we've had a very big presence in the Balkans. We have a good presence day to day now in Belgrade, obviously with the Crown Plaza, the Holiday Inn and the Holiday Inn Express. And then we actually signed at the end of last year, we also signed a new, what is our boutique brand, Hotel Indigo. We're in the city center here, which is also planned to start construction before the end of the year. And then obviously in 2 months' time, on 15th of August, we have the great opening of the new Intercontinental new built in Ljubljana with 165 rooms. So we're really looking there also just to redefine the whole hotel sector there by putting a completely new hotel on the map with and some pretty bullish plans on how we want to position that hotel, because it will have the typical Michelin star restaurant on the top, horizon pool on the 22nd floor, big meeting rooms and ballroom. And just to copy Adela a bit, I mean, our strategy is pretty simple as well. I mean, we're looking for all the big capital cities in the Balkans. We're perhaps slightly less tourism or vacational oriented than some of the other hotel chains, and really want to first set up a good position in the urban sector, in the main cities, and from there, then in the future, we'll move to vacational ones.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. And what about Darren? What about your brand presence at the moment?
We're pretty broad across most of the countries of the region. We're quite a long time established in Bucharest, in Sofia, in Budapest, more recently in Ljubljana. We also have a couple of resort hotels. We're not in Zagreb, but we're on the coast in Croatia, and a couple of resorts in Hungary, spa resorts, park inns. So far, we've not really had a strategy, and I think it's only, you mentioned before whether it's Snow White or Cinderella. I would say for us it's been more Sleeping Beauty. And it's only recently that we've recognized the real strength of this region. I think everybody is more or less in that boat with the strong economic growth, macroeconomic growth of the region. For us, with now a strategy, our strategy is largely focused in this region on Romania. But we'd certainly look for opportunistic growth in markets, further hotel in Belgrade. We'd love to get a hotel in Zagreb, and so, but the main focus is Romania.
Okay, so Romania is the top so far. Emmeline, what about you?
Well, I'm based myself in Romania, so we already have 7 hotels there, and we are going to open a couple of more this year. But if we look more specifically on the Balkans area, today we have 1 hotel, which is an Ibis hotel in Skopje in Macedonia. We are going to open another 3 this year. Another 4 actually, because we will open 1 more in Macedonia in Tetovo under Mercure brand. There is the Mercure here in Belgrade, which I mentioned earlier, and we are also going to open 2 properties in Bosnia, 1 M Gallery resort very close to Sarajevo in Tarčin, and 1 Novotel in Sarajevo. So obviously we are going from 1 hotel today, which opened only a couple of years ago, to 5 by the end of this year. We have another hotel which is going to open here in Belgrade, 1 in Montenegro, and 1 more in Bosnia. So we are developing very, very fast. Your question was as well related to the brands. I think what is very important is to have the right brand for the right location. If we look, for example, at the hotel we are going to open in Tarčin in Bosnia, it's going to be a small resort really locally rooted, with a strong emphasis on well-being and holistic experience. So to that extent, M Gallery, which is a collection of boutique hotels, fits really, really well. If we look at other destinations, there were mentions, of course, of all the capital cities, but also secondary cities. We mentioned already Niš and Novi Sad. We can also mention, for example, Banja Luka or Mostar in Bosnia. We can speak about Split or Dubrovnik in Croatia. So I think there is a lot of potential in terms of city destinations, be they primary cities or secondary cities, and of course the seaside and also the mountains. In terms of brands, we have brands covering the whole range from economic brands to top luxury brands, where definitely a very, very strong potential is on our mid-scale brands. So in our portfolio, that would be Novotel or Mercure, but also a very, very strong potential for our three-star brands with Ibis and Ibis Styles. Because today, first of all, and this is something we haven't mentioned yet, but the presence of international brands is fairly low. Even if we look at capital cities, Belgrade and Zagreb are around 30% of penetration of international brands. It's even lower in Sarajevo and in Ljubljana. So for sure, there is a strong potential there. But if you look at three-star hotels, it's a virgin market.
Yes.
And actually, I think it's Tariq who mentioned it in the previous panel. The next one to open a 300-bedroom Ibis here in Belgrade will make a fortune. I believe so as well.
Perfect. Well, speaking about, you mentioned right brand for right location. Hilko, you're now opening the Intercont and at Ljubljana, in Ljubljana. Yeah. Obviously, the first five-star property in Ljubljana. There is Radisson Blu, but it's officially as a four-star property. Categorized. So first official five-star hotel in Ljubljana, according to local categorization, is going to be Intercontinental. Yep. So you believe that Ljubljana is now really in the position to start with first five-star luxury property?
Yes, I mean it's been a long time being, but clearly if you look at just the economy itself, you know, it has a higher GDP per capita than Poland. It's fully incorporated in the EU. And it has no big international five-star hotel, so there's definitely a market for it. I don't know if you traditionally, you know, we started Intercon, our Intercon brand started as the hotel chain from Pan Am Airlines. So basically where Pan Am was flying, we popped an Intercontinental hotel there. And a lot of times people also thought, how can you open, you know, in these type of locations? But in the end, the big majority of them all worked fantastically. And we have a lot of experience in these type of properties and type of locations where sometimes, yes, we do get some heat on saying, well, why are you being, you know, opening here, and the question marks we got around. But I mean, we perform and we feel pretty comfortable in doing it. And we actually met with the owners this morning and we've actually raised our P&L before opening, and we're opening the hotel, which was scheduled to open in March of next year. We're opening it on the 15th of August. So we've even brought the opening of a luxury five-star hotel forward by close to 7-8 months, which is quite rare. And that obviously creates some extra cash flow. But on top of it, we're extremely bullish. So we've raised our P&L, opening P&L. I think it's always a big question, no? And that's why also our strategy is probably sometimes a bit different. We're quite, I mean, some people say, well, we're very focused on where we want to grow, and we know it's also important where you do not want to grow, because in the end, you have a responsibility to investors. So going into locations, you have to be 100% sure that the brand fits, but that also the return on investment is there. We just don't want to pop, you know, hotels and brands on the map for size and you know, just for brand presence. They have to make sense. They have to make, and primordially, they have to make financial sense. So we have a pretty clear strategy, as I said before. It's the 5-6 main cities in the Balkans, and it's the same strategy we have for Eastern Europe, and we're going to hold by it. Nonetheless, if suddenly a fantastic opportunity does come up, then we will make sure to have a good look at it. But our general strategy is very much focused on that. So we will do developments in the main cities before we do and have a look at Vacational, for example.
Perfect. So looking at the model of how you plan to enter the market, are we speaking about management, franchise, lease? What is individual brand approached on this question?
Yeah, sorry, I mean, I've been talking quite a bit now, so.
For us, it's management and franchise. We don't do leases directly. There is something called a sandwich agreement, if you want. It hasn't come in this region yet, but in Germany, Austria, Central Europe, if you wish, or Western Europe is very popular, whereby you have the owner, the franchisor, like Hilton, and somebody in the middle that does a franchise with us and does a lease with the owner. Which is a way to get by the lease concept, which we can't really do directly. This concept is not popular here. I think it's probably going to come in 5-10 years, but at the moment here is just franchise or management. We have in Europe about 450 properties trading and 300 in the pipeline. Of these properties, it's about 50-50 management franchise. So we do both types of agreements. It depends what fits best. If it's a capital city, if it's a Hilton hotel with a lot of facilities, 250 rooms like in Belgrade, large conference, a spa, maybe it makes more sense for Hilton to manage and the owners appreciate it. Possibly that's the right choice. If there is a smaller hotel, maybe a Hampton by Hilton, which is a mid-market or focus service hotels, 3-4 star in this market, in a capital city or regional city, maybe a franchise agreement fits better. When you talk about conversions, it's 90% of the time is a franchise agreement because that hotel is trading already in the market. It has a management team in place, so they would need our brand, so they need a franchise agreement. So it very much depends on the wish of the owner, the product, the location. We look at the feasibility as well, so we are open to both types of agreements.
Is some geography or some country you're more inclined to give franchises or more management emphasis in terms of countries?
In terms of countries, I mean, in the region, if I look at Romania, where we have 11 projects, is a bit more franchise than managed. Here in Southeast Europe, I think will be more managed for now, at least for the next few years, as owners start to understand the business better, as staff starts to learn the business better, so then they develop their own teams, and then they will be able to manage these hotels themselves. But it very much depends. Even nowadays, there are quite a few experienced companies here in the market or experienced Serbian who worked abroad. Maybe they work in our Hiltons in Munich or Vienna or somewhere else, and they can happily come back and manage a hotel here in the region. So I think now the labor is getting trained and is learning, and also owners are becoming more experienced with management and franchise agreements. But it very much depends. I think here is still more of a management opportunity for us and for the owners.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? I mean, any differences from your approach of Hilton?
The same in respect that we would be looking at management and franchise, and the same that we would prefer to have a managed property for all the reasons that were said in the first panel. But we have a very successful partnership in Hungary with our three park-in hotels, a good management team there, local management team. We've recently signed a Radisson in Brasov as a franchise because the operator has displayed the ability to operate property. So I think it comes with the deal. It comes with, again, it's a bit opportunistic if the structure of the investment and the desire of the investor is for a franchise, then, either you take a franchise or walk away. I'd also say that it's a city thing as well, because if you're setting out in a capital city, you're more likely, partially because of the type of clientele you're going to have, the kind of exposure you're going to have, probably you're more likely to push for a management agreement. Whereas if it's in a secondary city, then because of perhaps the local local abilities of the operator, maybe it works better, particularly going back to Hungary, where you're working in a leisure environment, which is primarily domestic. So I think it's a sense of the deal. It's the total thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just to add, I mean, I think it's vital to find that perfect partner, you know, and in development world, we always say, you know, once you have a fantastic, you know, partner that you can develop with, it's so much easier to do it. And every deal to find a new partner in the market, especially in these. We also pretty much do everything managed and franchised. We don't do leases, pretty much like Hilton. Simple reason, you know, it comes onto our balance sheet, and that obviously, you know, it's a whole different model, which you obviously see it a lot in Germany, in Spain, and Italy. I don't see it. I think this is a relatively young, but on the other hand, also a very mature market in the sense that they are very open to international brands, and you obviously have very local competitors. So I foresee a pretty big future in franchise and management contracts for this. And then it also very brand specific. No, I mean your top brands normally always manage them, and then obviously Holiday Inn Express and which is our limited service. You know, generally we would just go the franchise route.
Franchise it is.
We do management, we do franchise as well. Noticeably, we are also open to franchise for upscale and upper upscale brands. For instance, the Swiss Hotel, which will open at the beginning of next year in Sarajevo, is under a franchise agreement. Of course, for that, we have to make sure, and we do make sure, that the owner is able to put in place a management team able to deliver on the brand promise. One maybe specificity of our group compared to all the international brands is that we also invest ourselves. And I think that to that extent, it also demonstrates how confident we are in these destinations. Orbis owns nearly just over 70 hotels in the region, mostly in Poland for historical reasons. But for example, we are very much focused on finding opportunities for our own investment here in Belgrade or in Zagreb. So this is as well something which is very important for us. Now, when it comes to management and franchise, as I said, except for top luxury brands where indeed we would only consider management, but otherwise mid-scale, upscale, or budget brands, either management and franchise. However, what we are really careful with is if we start developing a destination under management, then we will try to stick to management agreements for that specific destination, and vice versa. If we start developing under franchise, then we would rather prioritize franchise. The reason is quite simple, really, because we want to make sure that there is some brand consistency in terms of strategy, of positioning, of commercialization of our properties. So under a franchise agreement, we are not in direct control of the commercialization strategy of the hotel. Therefore, if we start developing a destination under management agreement, we would favor management agreements for that specific destination. But here again, it's really, it is a case-by-case story, as always.
So, I mean, all of you mentioned deal-making and operational agreements in Southeastern Europe. So how is this actually similar, or how it is specific compared to your other regions and your other experiences so far? Is it more challenging? Is it more demanding? What are unique things that you are actually facing here?
Yeah, I have a funny one, this one actually, because I cover the whole of Southern Europe. So basically, you know, you do a lot of different countries and cultures. And I actually find the Balkans, the level of international education generally that people have had is fantastic for them. It's obviously less for us sometimes because negotiations are a lot tougher. They know their stuff. And I think that's obviously fantastic. but you have fantastically well-educated people, you know, all over the Balkans. And then, you know, they've studied in the US, they've studied in the UK and Germany. A lot of them are very financially oriented, and you take that, for example, with traditional markets, and don't get me wrong, because I live in Spain, I like Spain and everything, but it's a much more immature market. The people basically get there because they're real estate investors, or they've done, you know, they got their money in the real estate, not traditionally because they know, you know, in-depth financial models. So I find it a good challenge, you know, to get the deals over the line, attractive deals for both sides. But it's a very, as I said before, they're very small markets, but they're very professional, I have to say.
You go first.
It's quite different. I can't say it's more difficult or easier, but it's different. I think there are cultural differences. Also, the fact that the market is quite young here. We deal with first-time hotel owners or branded hotel owners, if you wish. We have 75% of our new projects are with the same owners. So 3 out of 4 deals are with the same people. So obviously when you do a second deal and a third and a fourth, then it's no more negotiation. You just probably repeat what you did before. And we say 25%, we leave it for fresh blood, for owners in Southeastern Europe to come and join our network. And it's always difficult to do the first deal. And the first deal, you know, everybody wants to negotiate, to cut your fees in half. There's a lot of keen consultants and lawyers trying to rewrite our agreements, which we don't really quite accept. And once you've done the first, and then you've come in and experienced what the brand does, the performance you can achieve, then I think it gets easier and easier, and you end up with no more negotiation.
So also the confidence question. For the first clients, it's really always some kind of insecurity about what is brand going to bring on the table.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's the fear of unknown. And it's not just about the hotel contracts. It's anywhere and anything we do in life. If you are not used to something, or if you go to a destination you don't know, or you do something you don't know, it's just that fear that, you know, how is it going to be? But I think, you know, that the strong brand, the strong engine, you know, companies with so many hotels and all over the place, doing well and talking to other owners. And we also like to hold hands with our owners, and especially in this region. I'm also from the region, and we tend to be from the region, so we speak the language in some cases, and we can take the time and explain what the journey is and the relationship is, which is quite long. It's 20, 25 years. So we need to know both sides what we are getting ourselves into.
While I'm British, and I started my career in the UK, USA, Bermuda, and Hong Kong, my development career has entirely been in Eastern Europe. I'm coming from the East to the Balkans after spending, I suppose, about 12 years in development. So actually I see it from the other perspective, in respect that in Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, the resources are very thin. And what I've found here in this last year or so in working in the Balkans is very much more resources, more qualified architects, support in project management, understanding of the business from an owner's perspective. Perhaps sometimes there's too much knowledge is dangerous, but I see here it's actually I agree on respect. It's perhaps a little bit difficult sometimes to negotiate, because particularly recently in Budapest, the deals I'm being asked for are leases or some kind of quasi-lease kind of thing, which I can't go to. So it's a little bit trickier, but the resources backing up the development are generally stronger.
Mm-hmm. To which extent is this prolonging the process of negotiations and closing the deal compared to, let's say, more mature and more efficient markets for you? Is it 20%, 50% longer process, or how? What's your experience?
I think it also depends a lot on the profile of the investors. You know, as Adela was mentioning, a number of the deals we sign are with existing partner for a start. Second, it's very different if you're negotiating a deal with even a private company who already owns a few hotels in other destinations, but they already have a management agreement in place, so they somehow know what to expect. Or if you have the local entrepreneur who got rich, for example, the owner of the Mercure in Bucharest, he's a dentist. And he got rich by selling the fake teeth, you know, and he's the leader in the market. But you know, at the beginning, and I go completely along what Adela was saying. The first contract, it was very much time consuming because he needed to be explained what we meant. Yes, what was the philosophy of the contract. But the second one is pretty straightforward. It's again a totally different story if you're discussing with institutional investors. So, quite frankly, the quickest contract I've ever signed, it was less than 2 months. It was incredibly quick. But then I'm still talking with someone today whom I started negotiating with over a year ago. So, and it's entirely due to the profile of the investor, not so much because of where the investor is from.
Yeah, I think that the question of investors is also really, really interesting. So in your experience so far, obviously institutional investors are more rare in this region, but who are actually standard investors and most usual investors you are dealing with at the moment? What is the profile of these investors?
Yeah, I was going to mention before that there's actually, I think there is a bit of a difference that probably because it's still somewhat an immature market, or it's not relatively old, that generally the investors that we work with are long-term investors. They're not looking at a quick value add or an exit, you know, in 5 or 7 years. They're really looking at adding it to their asset portfolio, and it's a long-term investment. And I think that's you know, it's vital to find that partner, and it's obviously the expectations an investor like that has versus a more, you know, sometimes a more aggressive real estate fund that already has, you know, a planned exit is quite different. So the relationship becomes a lot more important, and we're doing the big majority of our deals are with very few investors that we work with.
So the typical investor in the region for us is the local investor, the somebody who has a piece of land or knows the market or has money and is comfortable to invest in their own environment. So most of our regional owners are from the region. Very rarely you have a British investor or a German investor investing somewhere in Romania or Bulgaria, but here the investors tend to be from here. The ideal investor would be the investor with loads of kids, so they build a hotel for each of them. But you know, I have projects with investors who I met in 2010, and we've been discussing them for 2 years, 2010 to 2012, and then they've gone away for 5 years, and they came back this year. And luckily, I was still at Hilton. They found me because they had my number. And we are starting, again, discussions on the same projects 6 years later. So I think it very much depends, and sometimes can be very quick. You know, the fastest deal I did, I think, was 3 months. You know, seen, done, signed, built, open. But it's very rare. That was actually my first deal. And my boss said, "Oh, you're so quick. Maybe you should move into development." But that was really a dream deal. It never happened again.
You set high expectations at the beginning.
I did, but you know, it never happened again. So the 3 months at the beginning is no longer 3 months. Could be 6 years. So it very much depends: location, developer, owner, project.
Yeah, the same. There's a perceived development risk. There is a development risk in pretty much all the countries in this region. So to get international investors in is rare. In a development, perhaps in an acquisition or a purchase of a hotel, it's possible. Mostly private individual, wealthy private individuals, sometimes contractors. That's primarily it. I've also seen some interest from financial institutions with established knowledge of the market that are ready also to look at real estate investment directly. So that's a slight change.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. And maybe we can just shortly interrupt the panel and check whether there are any kind of questions from the audience. Feel free to ask whatever you want. Yes, please.
Thank you, first of all, for this great feedback overall in general about the development. A bit more question into detail, looking at the Belgrade market. You know, Hilton is coming very soon. The properties from IHG, Accor is coming, or efficiently coming towards the market. So as a developer, you make performers, right, for the owners and investors. So how is your prediction over the next 5 years, which the normal performer runs, in regards of ADR development within the Belgrade market, seeing it declining over the last 3 years?
It's been declining in Belgrade, that's true.
Yes.
And whether that gets arrested, gets stopped, I think maybe when the upscale, the luxury hotels come in, maybe that would reverse the trend. But the other markets in general have been improving, particularly Bucharest has been growing RevPARs of over 10% per annum for the last 4 years. So, yeah.
I think there's also some natural attrition, obviously, in that, with this big supply that's coming into the Belgrade market. For example, now all the hotels that are being built. But that also generates, I mean, every time I come to the airport, my mouth falls open because it's just, I mean, last night it looked like a, you know, shopping center on Christmas Day. It was packed, absolutely packed. And you know, I've been coming to Belgrade now for the last 3 years, and that's, I think it's a normal movement. Obviously, you know, supply follows demand, and then obviously overcompensates at a certain page where the demand just can't follow up. But the demand will come. I mean, the market is sufficiently strong, and I'm quite bullish also I cover what was, you know, unfavorably known a couple of years ago as the pigs. You know, it was Portugal, Italy, Greece, Spain, and the Balkans to a certain degree also related with that we got hit very heavily obviously by the economic crisis. You look at it today, you know, last 2 years are absolutely stunning. Everybody now wants to invest in the pigs, as they're called, and that includes, I think, the Balkans as well. So I think there's also a normal attrition. If I would have to give you an answer, you know, where are we in 5 years? Obviously, it's very difficult to give you a direct answer, but I feel that the market has enough capacity and enough, you know, demand to keep on growing.
Well, I guess I will just repeat what I said earlier, that Orbis is looking into investment opportunities here. So obviously we are very confident in the perspectives in this market. I agree with Darren with the parallel he drew with Bucharest. I've been taking care of Bucharest for a while already, and it used to be a pure business destination. 3 years ago, the Novotel, which is bang in the city center of Bucharest with 257 rooms, would run the month of August as only 60% occupancy because it's not a business month. Last year and the year before, the hotel was above 90% occupancy in August. And trust me, my office is there. It was definitely not with business people. So leisure travelers are hungry for new destinations in Europe, obviously because of the terrorist attacks, etc., and the difficult situation in Northern Africa. We are talking about Egypt earlier before the panel. So I think Belgrade holds a lot of potential to that extent as a destination. I think that the millennials are the new travelers. And you were talking about socialist chic, the way you put it. I don't know, my small cousin was here last summer with her boyfriend, you know, and it was very unexpected, but because she's been to Prague and Budapest already, so what's next? Belgrade. So to that extent, we are very confident with the future for this city.
Yeah, I'm also confident Belgrade not only is positioned in Central Europe, if you wish, Central Eastern, but also the size of the city is 2 million people. It's the same as Vienna, same as Bucharest, and it compared to the other cities, of course, it's not Vienna, but to me, Belgrade is actually much more fun than Vienna. It's very buzzy. You can feel, you go out on the street and you feel the vibe. And I think it's nice, and not just the tourists. I think the tourists are coming already, and I think they will be coming. They will continue to come. But also the business clientele, location, size. All ingredients are there for the city to become and to catch up with the other cities in terms of brands, and not just the amount of brands, but also the performance, so the rates, and also the newcomers to the market. I think it's important to position yourself at a certain level, and you don't do price dumping, and you'd have a few good management companies keeping the price up, and charging a proper price for the right product. If the product is upscale, is upmarket, then the rate should be so as well. So from that point of view, I think Belgrade has a good future, and everything is cyclical anyway. So there is crisis. We know it's going to come. We just don't know when it's going to come. And I think once you protect yourself with a good investment, a good product, a good brand, I think you would not have such risk in the crisis. But everything is cyclical, and ADR is going up and down, and crisis, now is fine for most of the region. The market is up, but the market's going to be down in a few years, and then that's when you should protect yourself. Not right now. And I think Belgrade is going to do very well, especially with the ascension of the EU. I think that's also is going to be important for the country because it's more visibility. Investors have more confidence to come here. I think it would open up the country, and especially Belgrade as a city, to business and tourists.
Mm-hmm. More questions, maybe? Yes, please.
Talking about, I'm Jerome from MK Resort. Talking about Belgrade, will there be a mama shelter?
Possibly. Yes.
That's actually the question I also wanted to pop up. So the question of you properly mentioned millennials and guys looking for more individual brands. So how is your opinion on this kind of brand? So moving from standard mainstream classic brands and really looking at more dynamic, more lifestyle-oriented boutique brands. So how do you think these kind of brands are fit for the region? And of course, your plans in that sense.
Yes, we can talk about Mama Shelter, although no official announcement has been made. It is true that we've had our eyes on Belgrade with this brand. I fully agree with what Adela was mentioning earlier. You have that vibe in Belgrade. The city lives. It doesn't matter what the weather is. It doesn't matter what day of the week it is. It doesn't matter what time of the day it is. It's always busy. There are always some people. People go out, they drink coffee, they go to restaurants, etc. And to that extent, Mama Shelter, which is a really playful, modern, contemporary lifestyle brand, fits really, really well for this city. So we think that it's a very good fit. There is another brand as well, and there is nothing to announce here, but which I think could be as well very interesting for Belgrade, but maybe for Zagreb as well, and it's Joe & Joe. Joe & Joe is the newborn of Accor Hotels brand, and it's an open house. So it's somewhere in between hotel and hostel. It's directly targeting millennials, and the concept is having different kind of rooms. So you can have some kind of dormitories for 8 to 12 people, but in the same building you will also have some small dormitories for say 4 to 6 people, and you will also have part of the bed stock as small rooms for 2 or 3 people, so more traditional rooms. And you will also have some rooms with a small kitchenette to share. And the whole idea of this open house is, yes, to provide accommodation to the travelers, but to be also at the center of the life of the city. So to have a lot of events organized, some concerts, some yoga lessons, and so on. Because what we want to do is really create that bond between the travelers who are seeking authenticity and to meet the real people in the city which they are visiting. Because this is really at the heart of the experiences which the millennial generation is seeking.
Our brand in that space would be Radisson Red, which is music, culture. We've been very successful in signing projects in the Baltics because they have similar kind of markets to here. I agree with everyone. I think Belgrade and all of the capital cities in this region are really sort of funky places. I've been twice on vacation to Serbia because of the culture, because I came here because of Guča, I came here because of the fun of Belgrade, and I think you can build that very well into a lifestyle hotel. So yes, I'd love to put a Radisson Red here.
Yeah, we have, we have a Hotel Indigo signed, which is our lifestyle boutique. I would like to say it's specific for the Balkans, but I think it's a general trend worldwide that more and more people want individualistic, not the typical cookie paste type of hotel. They want something that's much more lifestyle, design oriented. And to such effect also, our limited service brand, which is Holiday Inn Express, and we have close to 3,000 of those. The new generation, so everything that gets built basically from last year onwards are much more design focused as well, and with focused more also on millennials. And Hotel Indigo completely follows that concept, obviously on a much higher quality. And then what we do is we just incorporate the city itself or the location, where there's cities where we have 3 or 4 of them, but each one is very specific on what is the local market or local needs. So you walk into one and it's in a completely different. But it's more of a global trend in all the big capital cities. Obviously here it's very easy to get that fantastic neighborhood story into the hotel. I mean, it's a no-brainer. In other cities sometimes you can probably struggle a bit more. And then there is that huge focus, as you said, on the new millennials. But today you need your 55-inch televisions, you need your Wi-Fi to work spotless, and you have to create this oomph and this great, public area where people are very comfortable to go.
For us, the lifestyle brand is Canopy by Hilton. We launched it a few years ago. The first one that opened is a hard brand, so you have to build it from scratch. The first one we opened is in Reykjavik in Iceland. It was very successful, and the rates are going through the roof, which we are very excited about. And I think Belgrade is one of the destinations where Canopy would fit perfectly. I think it would be Vienna, Belgrade, Bucharest, if you wish, if you want to see a few capitals where Canopy would fit very nicely. It's a lifestyle brand. The rooms are about 27 square meters. It could vary a little bit as well. The restaurant would be trendy. It has to be in the right neighborhood. It's all about the neighborhood. The design also has to embrace the local culture and the location. When you wake up in the morning, you need to know you are in Belgrade and not in New York or somewhere else. Also, you can have a rooftop bar and conference facilities, yes or no, spa, yes or no. But Belgrade definitely would be a great candidate for a lifestyle brand, for sure.
Is the region also becoming, in your opinion and from your perspective, also the luxury destination? Can we speak about general luxury positioning, or we are speaking about very insulated destinations, and how are you looking at this? Obviously, Intercontinental entering Ljubljana is one story in terms of luxury, but what about the rest of the region and the luxury perception and potential image and attracting potential of the region in terms of attracting luxurious travelers?
I think that's tough on an investment side. I don't think there's a market in this region which has a strong ADR except for the coast, Croatian coast primarily.
And maybe Montenegro.
And Montenegro will grow there too. So I think it's a risky investment. It's a good thing for the region, and it's a good thing for other hotels, I believe. But it's risky for the individual investor.
Yeah, and also for the brand, you have to do the feasibility properly, and not just the owner, but also the brand. Our luxury brands are Waldorf Astoria and Conrad. And in the region, I believe Vienna would be the place where we would be looking for a luxury brand right now. I don't think we are looking actively in the rest of Southeastern Europe, Budapest potentially, but obviously it has to be the right product, the right location, the right facilities. And I think the markets in our region here are still a way to go from the lifestyle, from the luxury brands, only because the investment has to be substantial. Luxury is expensive and the rates are not there yet. Somebody was talking about €69 ADR. For a luxury product, you'd be looking north of 200, 300, 400. So I think we are not there yet, but it's going to come. Again, when, I don't know, but I think it will be a few years.
I correct myself, actually, from what you mentioned there, is actually Budapest, downtown Budapest is now getting to those rates where luxury would really work.
Okay. Questions?
I have a question. Since you're all here, I would like to know what is happening with you as companies looking at the quantity versus quality. So you are giving quality to your owners or to hotel owners. On the other side, in development perspective, you have new brands. You want to open more and more hotels. And how can you actually keep the quality at the same time as the quantity grows? And the individualization of new brands that you're getting in the millennials that want sense of the local. So how you actually bring quality to those individual hotels?
Yeah, it comes down to responsibility to your owners. And that's why you have to I think you have to have a very clear strategy of what works, what doesn't. And you know, we have an internal process which includes also external advice. And as soon as we're not clear on it, we'd rather step away from it than committing to something that, you know, in the end it's not going to work. You know, we've had a lot of and I think that's in the end is the prime. It's just getting focused, working on where you need to invest, and doing it correctly.
I agree. It's about the owners. We've made a quite deliberate strategic focus in just focusing in our Radisson Blu and Park Inn by Radisson brands. We don't have a portfolio of 30 or so different brands. We're growing it a little now, but that's the main focus. But in terms of expansion and growth and number of hotels, that's actually how you do deliver value to your owner. So the more hotels you have in the region, the more you develop the sales, the recognition of the brand. So from that perspective, it's positive.
We also have very defined brand standards. We have 14 brands, and we want to keep them all in the swim lanes. We say once you cross the swim lane, so then if you have facilities for 700 square meters and you want a Hilton Garden Inn, that's really a DoubleTree by Hilton. So it depends very much on the facilities and on the product. So once you have a product, we know exactly what it is, the defined brand standards. You get a book, you know, a few hundred pages, and then you would have to follow that. We have our own departments, we have technical services, we have operations, we have development, so everybody is making sure that the quality is respected and is followed, and you can't just open a hotel. It has to be the DoubleTree by Hilton, the Hilton, or the Hilton Garden Inn hotel. So we have to ensure quality is there, and that's the promise to our guests as well. And obviously, if there is no quality, the owner's not, the client's not coming back, the owner suffers, the brand suffers. So I think quality is paramount. And also in the US, for example, we open at such a growth pace because we have a lot of Hampton by Hilton developments which are being built quicker. So we open a hotel a day in the US, and all by standards and all quality products. In Europe, this is not happening quite yet. You know, we are not opening a hotel a day here, but we are opening maybe one a week. But still, everything is ensured that the quality is there. Otherwise, we can't open a hotel.
Well, if we want to talk about quality, I'm not going to talk about brand standards. I'm not going to talk about pages and pages of technical requirements. I will talk about our people. Because this is what it is about. This is a people's industry. So I think the key to maintaining quality in our hotels is to have the right people properly trained. I think that to that extent, we have an advantage as a brand because we have a network of hotels. So this year, for example, in Southeastern Europe, we are opening 7 hotels. We are doubling the network within the year. I'm not going to lie, it's a challenge, you know. It's not mine, it's the one of the operational guy. But it is a challenge, you know, because you have to find the right person who will be able to take care of that property, to train the team accordingly, to implement the service standards and so on. So we do have academies. We have in the region, we have one in Warsaw, we have one in Budapest. But to be honest, the greatest wealth, and I see it in the people whom we send to open up those hotels, is their experience with us, because most of them, they have been working in our hotels in other destinations in the region for several years. And for those who haven't, for the people who we recruit from outside, we give them the opportunities to come and shadow the head of departments in some of our existing hotels here. We also have that new program in place internally, which is called the Heartist. You know, at the end of the day, it's also getting the best out of the people. So you can train people on technical skills, but it's also somehow we need to teach people to be themselves again, to have that authenticity in the relationship with the guests. Because the guests, yes, they want their big screen TV, you know, but once the big screen TV is there, then so what? It's not enough. You need to create emotion. The guests are after an experience. So we are training our people on that as well.
So guys, maybe in order to conclude, because we are now running out of time, question for you, all the same question. So if you have to choose, and I mean, your private family wealth fund, let's assume you all have. So in that sense, imaginary sense, which investment type would you choose to put in Southeastern Europe? What kind of brand and in which location?
How much do I have?
Imaginary.
Imaginary. Oh, I go crazy. One of each. I'll build all.
You already told luxury is no choice for you, so you don't need much money.
In the region, definitely Belgrade, then Novi Sad and Niš here in Serbia, then going out other capital cities, regional cities with over 200, 300,000 people. Hilton, DoubleTree by Hilton, Hilton Garden Inn. This would be the choices. Canopy by Hilton.
So you have huge fund.
Yeah, I need a huge fund for that. And the Canopy by Hilton in Belgrade for sure.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think I will be very objective on this because I'm a Ibis girl at heart. I used to be a Ibis general manager. So if I have the funds, I would create a network of Ibises or Ibis styles in the region. It's cheap, so I don't need so much money, hopefully. And you can easily create in the region a network of 10 Ibis hotels. You know, it doesn't need to be big, 120 rooms or so, depending on the location. In Belgrade, in Zagreb, a little bit bigger, and I'd go with that.
Mm-hmm. Guys?
Parkin by Radisson, Belgrade. I put another one in Bucharest. It's very successful there. Zagreb, but a mid-market hotel. Mm-hmm. I think that's where the money's safe.
Cool.
Yeah, for us, well, I don't want to be boring and say copy-paste of Belgrade, but yeah, main 5 capital cities. I agree also, you know, we're signing a lot of multiple development agreements for Holiday Inn Express across Southern Europe and for example, in Germany, UK. So that's, you know, rolling out, for example, a portfolio of 10, 15 Holiday Inn Expresses, which is, I think, is a great model with a good investment and a good return on investment.
Perfect. Okay. I think we could wrap up. Thank you everyone for participating. Thank you for discussion, and thank
Yep.
you all.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.